Eugene, welcome to the Birchal Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you with us. You are a very accomplished entrepreneur. You've taken a novel idea and turned it into a proper business, and in a niche which I know people are very passionate about their shoes, right? So where I want to start is you raised $900,000 on the Birchal platform. How the hell did you go about doing that?
I'd say good PR. I like to probably like to shout out my PR dude, Drew Lambert. I think
Okay.
a lot of people have gone through Drew, and he's been a magician of what he does.
Good on you, Drew.
We have a story, but a story's only a story when it's been heard by that many people, right? I
Yeah.
think we thought we could just go out there and raise, and we'd get money through to customers and everyone like that. So I actually forgot about PR until the day before we launched our EOI. And I think it was Claire at Birchal, when she heard that I hadn't signed up to any PR agency or anything, she was like, "You need PR. You need to meet Drew." Called Drew. Drew picked up the phone and he's like, "Yo, this is a really cool story. I think you have a story here. I can definitely sell it. When you're launching?" I said, "Tomorrow." And he just dead silent, 10 seconds. And then he said, "Fuck, I normally wouldn't take you on, but you have a really good story. I'm going to get you something." So same day he put a release out, and we went to town, and he got us on every agent, literally every major news outlet possible.
Wow.
Yeah, I was overseas for a best mate's wedding, and then I got yanked back to Melbourne to do 7 News. I think it was Sunrise, I think it was Sunrise. Maybe it was everything you can imagine, ABC radio, the whole lot, every Herald Sun, The Edge, whatever you could think of, he got us on. And you could instantly see, like, our EOI went from, 200 responses to 2,000 responses.
Wow. Okay.
So I think it would have been a 100 grand raise compared to a 900 grand raise if it wasn't for good PR, I think.
Got you. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
this episode could be sponsored by Drew Lambert today. So, Drew, if you're out there, thanks very much. Awesome. Well, so tell me, what did they grab onto? What was the story which you found resonated most?
I think at the end of the day, business is I found it's about finding a need and fulfilling that need. And that's really where shoe cleaning comes in, right? Where there is the whole story about me being a lawyer and then going to shoe cleaning, which is, I mean, it's nice. It's always a cute little gimmick thing. But at the end of the day, I think when you go, wow, I haven't heard of that service before, you think about your shoes, or your products, and you think about like how my shoes are $200-300. I've worn them
Mm.
twice or 3 times. They've been stepped on a bunch of times, and now they're not presentable enough to be worn to a nice dinner.
Yeah.
So then they just sit in a corner. They might, be worn to something less presentable, and then you buy another nice new pair of white leather shoes that you wear to nice dinners and everything. And it sort of goes down that chain. There's a life cycle of shoes that sit on your shelves, and then
Yep.
eventually they just get binned.
Yeah.
You might wear them hiking or camping and then really get them dirty at one time, and it's like, cool, bin. So when they hear about the sneaker laundry, you go, wow, like I can actually, buy a kit from anywhere from like $30 and revive 10 pairs of shoes back to the start again,
Mhm.
that kit going. And they go, wow, this is actually a need being fulfilled. And I think a lot of people just were caught onto that. And that combined with the beauty of Birchal, which is you can invest from a very small amount, right? Like, and you can back that story.
Mm.
I think people do like to see that sort of innovation in retail. That's sort of what the feedback that we got from investors when they were hopping on board.
Cool.
Yeah.
So is it like anti-fast fashion? Is that what you found resonated most, or?
That was definitely a byproduct of what we were doing.
Yep.
At the start, we were just like, what if you had shoes that you really liked and you wanted to keep wearing them?
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? You do
Sure.
your laundry, you look presentable, you got
Yep.
stains on your shirt, you wash that out, and you look presentable head up to your toes, and then your toes is just like, yo, that's a bit grunky, right?
Yeah.
You like those shoes. That's why you bought them.
Mm.
But then you can't rock them the way they were meant to be rocked. And it's sort of like, why not? And no one ever really fixed that. A lot of people go, why not? It's because, well, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
But I also don't know how to, right? And that's where we sort of came in. And I think that was, therefore, the anti-fast fashion was a byproduct of that, because people realized they could keep cleaning them and not have to buy the shoes.
Yeah. It's quite amazing. I was researching this before I came on, and your Instagram, it's got some cool pictures on there. Like, your website's got some interesting, like, before and afters. And you're like, wow, like, you can actually genuinely get a pair back to what they looked like when the day you bought them, right? So
Definitely.
just tell me, obviously, what's missing from that picture is how long it took to achieve the said result. But So who's resonating? Like, it looks like you're kind of appealing to a DIY crowd who are genuinely looking to bring back that nice pair of shoes to a good looking pair. Or is it actually the ones who are like love their shoes? Because I've got a friend who's got hundreds of pairs of shoes. So who are you finding is actually turning out to be your customer, or is it maybe all of the above?
It's actually all of the above.
Right.
We've got the time poor. I have a massive collection of shoes and I need to be presentable, sort of like, the top 0.5% of Melbourne sort of thing in
Yep.
Sydney. And they'll bring those shoes into our stores, luggage load of them, 10, 20 pairs and drop them off in one go. And we'll get them all cleaned up. So we've got 2 stores in Sydney and 1 in Melbourne. So
Right.
we'll get them cleaned up, have them back to them in 2-3 days. Alternatively, there's the DIY sneaker collector. They'll buy the big kits online and they'll just go through their collection every weekend and just clean them up. And then we've got the entry level. I want to try this out and see if I can get a few of my shoes back to life. And
Yeah.
they'll buy, the entry kits for $30. We sell on Amazon too. So we've got
Cool.
people buying Amazon. We find like the newer suburbs out west are picking up a lot of Amazon kits as well.
Right.
Yeah. So we're seeing a good split across all sort of, I think those are 3 sort of main demographics.
So take us back to when you first had the idea. Like, it's a funny idea, right?
It is. Yeah.
It's like an interesting one going, oh, why can't I clean these? So take us back to that and maybe also how's it been changing from pre-raise perhaps through to where you are now?
The initial idea when we first started was a funny one. I was very adamant that the service would work, and we'd be like, "This is a service. The service is where it's at. We got to push the service." And
Right.
my then business partner said, "Oh, we've got to have products." And I go, "But then you'd just be fighting with yourself, right? You sell this guy a product, he'd never come back to you to get it clean. Like,
Yeah.
what's the go?" And he threw the gauntlet down and said, "No, we have to have products as well." And I gave us fine products too. Little did we know yet, I think years and years of experimentation, we found that there are just 2 types of people. One that would call a plumber for a leaking sink versus one that would go down to Bunnings and fix it themselves.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and there's 2 different audiences and you can have those 2 different things and cater to 2 different audiences, and that was sort of pre-COVID, pre-raise. Weirdly enough, going into COVID, e-commerce, I mean, not really weirdly enough, but we didn't see it coming, but e-commerce picked up. E-commerce absolutely boomed. And it sort of just seesawed between e-commerce and retail for a little bit. But as we came out the raise, as we came out of COVID and into the raise, we saw that retail was starting to pick up. Like, when I say retail, I mean brick and mortar, where we were cleaning the shoes physically.
Yep.
And that's when we sort of went, wow, we've really got a need for cash flow here to open more stores quicker. And also to then revamp the entire product line, and just level up all our products. And that's sort of when we went, we looked down the road of VC as well. But eventually ended up on crowdfunding.
Why did you choose virtual approach?
Funny enough, it was actually a cold LinkedIn outreach from before COVID, actually, from Claire.
Right.
Who's not, I don't think she's left. But she actually reached out.
Cool.
And that was when virtual wasn't much of a thing.
Mm.
I thought it was a bit of a scam, and I was like, oh, like maybe it's just a bit fishy. I set up everything on the platform, right?
Cool.
Everything set up for a raise, and then COVID hit, and I went, oh, that's not happening. And yeah, I actually went through a VC accelerator program as well in the States, and I was doing these like nighttime things with them and trying to get a raise going for sneaker laundry. And I realized it boiled down to this eventual question: like, are you doing this to raise money, or are you trying to get a strategic investor on board? So for us as a business, for example, if we wanted a strategic investor, we would have got, a big footwear company to come aboard to help accelerate our growth.
Right.
At that point, money wouldn't mean too much to us. If it was money we needed, then why are we going for VCs that grill us about our numbers, grill us about everything? And even if they gave you money, they take your liver for it, like that's the general feedback that you get.
Only your liver.
Only your liver. That's that's the best case scenario, right? Like, that's what I've heard, right? Anyone I've asked people who've gone through the VC fight, like, what happens when they give you the money, what happens after they give you the money.
Yep.
And most of the common feedback is they get is that after they give you the money, it's all a profit and loss game. You lose the vision, you lose a lot of the mission of the business, and it's all, does it turn a profit? Do that. Right. And that became an issue to me because we had this vision and a mission for the sneaker laundry.
Right.
And I feel like if a VC came in and made us compromise on things like our quality, our standards, just to churn an eventual 10% profit, we would lose the whole reason why we started Sneaker Laundry to begin with.
Mm.
And we're finding a lot of these decisions like we make, and I'm very grateful for the fact that we went crowdfund, was that, when we make a sneaker cleaning kit, we ask ourselves, where do we position ourselves? And we always ask ourselves, we always eventually end up on, we position ourselves to be the absolute best in the game, right? Even if the formula costs 20% more, the bottles cost 20% more, it has to be the best product out there. Because we have to use it. We have a store, we're customer facing, and we're Australia's sneaker care brand. We have to be the best product out there.
Yep.
Would a VC riding on your shoulder allow you to make that same decision? I'd probably say no.
Got you. So it gives you found it's provided more kind of closeness to your, or stronger alignment to your mission than perhaps if you've got interferences of commercial realities. They might say, just save money on the bottle. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I think a VC is very bottom line, right?
Okay.
It's they ride you until they get that bottom line. That's the whole point. If they gut your liver for it, they have to. Crowdfunded investors, I've always looked at it as it's almost like a cross between private equity and a GoFundMe.
Mm.
They like the vision. That's why they signed on. I think Birchal is very good in making sure that you communicate your vision and your mission across. And that's what they buy into, and not really necessarily because you can't really go out there and say, this is how much I'm going to make and I'm going to promise you this much returns. The investors don't buy in because we're going to get you 10x money. It's because we're trying to take Australian sneaker care global.
Mm.
We're going to try and take Australian sneaker care around Australia.
Cool.
That's and if we make money in the process, then we're all going to reap the rewards together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me, looking back now on the raise, what do you wish you'd done differently?
Nothing.
Okay.
I really think we pulled it off really, really well. It's probably one of the highlights of Sneaker Laundry.
Right.
I think about this every day. I remember the day we did that raise. Oh, sorry, I lied. There is one thing I probably wish I did differently. But it's more post raise. But during the raise, I don't think I would do anything differently. I really went into it like as this is a do or die. It costs, as you know, it costs a lot of money to go into a raise, especially for a small business.
Mm.
You've got fees to pay, you've got marketing to pay, you've got PR to pay, you've got all these things to pay. And if you fall short of that raise, you've just punted a fair bit of money. Right. Like, so for us, we were definitely understanding that this is a do or die.
Right.
And if you raise and you just hit that minimum, the cost of then, as you know, maintaining that crowdfunded company is increased as opposed to just maintaining a simple P2I LTD.
Yeah.
And then it's just not that worthwhile. I remember being in Malaysia at the time, when the EOIs launched, and I actually just extended my stay in Malaysia. So I booked myself into a hotel for the whole 3 weeks, I think. And I gave every person that expressed their interest my phone number. And I said,
this is 2,000 people.
And they still had my phone number. I said, let's chat. I'm here to answer any questions you got.
Cool.
Let's pencil something in. And yeah, like we just went at it. Answered every question that they had. And I think the whole thing is that if they're supporting the company, they're supporting my vision and my thing, they should always have. And I think there's going to be people that disagree with this, but I feel like they should always have a direct line to me.
It's interesting. So I reckon that's one of the contentions of crowdfunding, that you're getting grilled by someone's putting in $250 versus 250 grand.
Yeah.
And the person who's putting in $250 takes that as seriously, maybe more seriously than someone who's punting 250.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of console that or justify that investment of time on the disparity?
I think I'm just, it's in my nature to give everyone the time of day. Understanding obviously that as a founder, your time is your most valuable resource. I always look at it as that someone's $250 could be worth more to someone else's $10,000. Could be an 18-year-old that's put, a week's work into getting out $250 to you versus someone that had a spare 10 grand lying around. And if someone's bought into the vision, that they're bought into the vision, and I think that if they find they have a great issue with being an investor in your company and they want to be able to pop you a call, they should be able to pop you a call.
It's cool.
And I think that the way that you treat that $250 investor is reflective, and versus the person that's invested $10,000 or $20,000 will see that as a reflection of how you're going to treat them. It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant with someone and you treat the waiter like shit, and then you treat the person sitting across the table really well.
Yeah.
It's not, I feel like that's a reflection either way.
100%.
Yeah. So and I guess the underlying understanding between the two parties is that you've invested $250 with me, and you know that, and you have questions that you want answered, but you know that my time is also very valuable. So if you spend all day haggling me about questions, then I'm not going to go out there and do the work Sneak Laundry needs. So we're in the same boat here, right? Like before you pop me that call, you got to understand we're in the same boat.
Strong alignment. I get that.
Yeah. So I guess that I found that even though they all have my email and they all have my phone number, very few actually, actually hold me up. Yeah. They actually, that was my biggest fear going to this. I was like, oh my God, like what happens if
you took 1,000 people?
Yeah. That many people just, and I remember that raise period, I locked myself in the room. Housekeeping would be just behind me, like cleaning up, food would get delivered up to the room, laundry would get fixed up and done. And I just
You're really selling it here, Eugene. This
is Zoom. I remember my calendar. I was like, oh my God. But end of the day, you look at it, it's the most high value thing as a founder you can ever do. You put that, month or two in, and your business valuation is now set because that many people say, we agree your business is worth that much and we're going to put that money in. And you've just raised this much capital for your business. Like, that's the most high value thing as a founder we can do. So yeah, I hope I sold that one. But
I think what's really important is to go in with your eyes open, because I think anyone who goes into a cap raise, I used to be a professional cap raiser for an investment fund. It's bloody hard work. Like it's not easy out there. Investors have lots and lots and lots of choice. So even though you've got the most fandangled company that you think you've got, the reality is it's the 5th or 6th or maybe 10th one they've seen that day, and that's I think that's a hard thing to get your head around as an entrepreneur or kind of as a founder. And then to get you to actually think like an investor, or kind of do that mindset shift from where you go from founder to, okay, you're now putting your own cash in and it's passive, all those different things. I think that they're difficult to reconcile. And I think it's really important to be able to go into any raise with your eyes wide open. So I think it's tricky. And I think what you just described doesn't sound easy, but it's not easy either.
It's not easy, but I mean, raising 900K was never meant to be easy.
Yeah.
It's always, everything has a price, right? Like, and if you ask me, was it worth it? 100%.
Cool.
And like you said, the original question, would you do anything different? No. Like you go into that raise, it's literally do or die. Every night I go to sleep and I just, every 15 minutes I'm refreshing that raise page, like, how do we do? I remember, one of our biggest investors, Zach, he came on board in the last hour.
Wow.
And I'd already, cool. We're on 600 and something. I think my job's done. I went to the driving range and I was just cracking balls and I was like, all right, this is a pretty successful raise. And I get a phone call from Claire going like, hey, this just came through and you're now on 800 and something.
Wow.
Bordering 900K. And
cool.
Mental. And at the end of the day, it is just a number.
Yeah.
Whether it's 600, 700, 800, I think the win is in the journey, that it didn't tank. And that it goes down as on a founder's, on entrepreneur's resume, hey, we raised this much money successfully for a company. That to me is the win in itself.
Yeah. So the raise really though, it's the hard thing about it, is really just the start of the journey.
It's just the start.
It's not like it's kind of like opening the door and you haven't even walked through yet. So for you, what's happened since then? How have you started to utilize the capital? What's it opened up for you? And what are you kind of most proud of in that journey?
The money is, like you said, it's just the beginning. It's just a resource for an entrepreneur to do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
What he needs to do is the real question after, right? And the landscape shifted so quickly coming out of COVID that by the time we had drawn up the plans of what we were going to use the money for and finished the raise, it shifted again.
Yeah, right.
We thought e-commerce was the way. And then coming out of COVID and after the raise, we started to see the retail stores. Oh, wow. So we're not just opening stores for shits and giggles anymore. We're actually opening stores to make money from the stores.
Yeah. Wow.
Like,
and
we were like, okay, we're going to open the stores as a halo effect to drive traffic to our website to then have people buy our products because slightly higher margins on products, wages are expensive.
So the halo piece being that they come and experience the products?
Yeah, or they walk past, our store in a shopping center and it's just like brand awareness and everything that feeds into the store. Or maybe they'll send their shoes in for a clean. We might not make money on that clean necessarily, but then they're in our system. They'll buy the kits, it's Christmas gifts, anything like that, and so on.
Got it.
And we saw that as a pretty good strategy to go on. And then we started realizing, hey, the stores aren't mismanaged. They actually can make some money. So then the strategy sort of shifted again. And we went through this major rebranding exercise. And that's probably where I made one of my biggest mistakes, right? Like when you have, and I look back on my personal life as well, when you come into money and this is a new place and you haven't been here before, you go, okay, we need to do a rebranding exercise. Let's get tenders from agencies. And you're not mismanaging the money per se, but I'll take 3 quotes from 3 branding agencies. But the problem is with the press is they also know that you've just raised a bunch of money.
Yeah.
These quotes don't come in cheap.
Yeah, right.
And that's the hardest thing to pretend is to pretend like you haven't got money.
Yeah.
We spend our whole lives, in the business making something out of nothing. And now we've got something and everyone's,
trying to take it from it.
It's almost like a zero-sum game. It's slightly toxic to think that way, but it is really effectively a zero-sum game. For me for a branding agency to then take 50 grand to do work that they promise, but are they going to deliver or not? So we're now playing a different ball game here, right? And so we've made some mistakes in that front, but lucky to say, we finally end up on a really good branding agency and revamped the entire product.
Cool.
Revamped the entire branding and I think it's about 6 years in, we've launched a new brand, new product line, and it's taken off really, really well. We've opened up a new channel where wholesalers are now picking up products because it sits really well on the shelves and we've got really good brand awareness as well.
And who's stocking stuff like this?
So we initially started stocking, and we still continue to start stocking really small Australian sneaker stores because that's what we are.
Okay.
We support the local community and for example, like if you have a sneaker store, we'll send you, a box of hundreds of wipes and you can just give that to your customers for free, right? Like it's just about like getting your customers into the habit of cleaning shoes. And so the sneaker stores like that. So stores that started in one store, like, the Good Kid in Sydney started in one, they're on 6-7 stores now across the year. So, I think as we support that journey and as they grow, we're very happy to be a part of that growth.
So, sorry, for someone who's not that into sneakers, I definitely wear sneakers, but I'm tucking mine very securely under the table so you can't see the condition they're in. There's people in Sydney who've got 7 sneaker stores now. And
100%.
they're selling what? They're selling kind of boutique.
Yeah, I think like anything from your Yeezys to your Jordan 1s and, and they're also selling, Fear of Gods, like sort of like the real streetwear sort of apparel.
Okay.
The more harder to attain streetwear apparel. Pretty much most stuff you can find on like StockX, but I think you want the retail experience and going to the store and have that readily available.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
the harder to cop stuff.
Sorry, the harder to...
The harder to cop, the harder to get stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so you might have to go online, try and join a raffle for it. You might not be able to get it, but these guys have got it probably in every size available.
God. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's that sounds a very like high-end product. Is that right? So that in terms of the client who's walking through the door.
Yeah, so they're prepared to pay 2x retail for a pair of shoes because they can't, 2 to 3x retail for a pair of shoes they can't get. Yeah, so it might be a pair of shoes that Nike has released that's very limited. It might retail for like $220.
Yeah.
But they'll sit on the shelves in there for like $4.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's good. If you have time, you've got to go on like StockX and you can see shoes get traded.
Right.
And based on supply and demand, the shoe prices like rise and fall based on the sizing as well. It's pretty cool.
Wow, it's a whole world I have no idea about. So
yeah.
Okay, so that's a perfect customer for you though, right? So if they're paying 2 times margin, 2 times retail, and some by the sounds of things. And then so if you are offering to extend the life of that product, then it's a dream.
That's really where we come in. I think that in the long term, the business sits really well with that high-end sneaker brands. It's almost like if you buy a BMW and they didn't have a workshop in-house, would you still be as inclined to buy a BMW?
Mm.
But if you bought a BMW and they told you, hey, for the next 5 years, we've got you covered.
Yeah.
Your servicing's covered, your clean's covered, whatever, you'd buy it probably that day.
Yep.
And so I think long term, that service really will sit in sneaker stores really well.
Okay.
We think it will help increase their conversion rates. We think it'll help increase their, the returning rate as well.
Yep.
We've tried this out with a couple of sneaker stores, and we found that if they say your first clean's free, they're more inclined to buy that pair today. Let's say we're running a promo this week. Any purchase comes with free sneaker clean.
And so they're taking those sneakers, shipping them to you.
No, well, when we do those pop-ups, we actually open within the store. But yeah, they can actually, a couple of collaborations now where they actually bring the sneakers to us.
Okay.
Yeah. And we find that it makes the customer go back into the store. So normally they'd buy the pair of shoes and not go back for months. But now they've worn that shoe.
Yeah.
And they go, I've got to bring that in very clean. So they go back to the original store they bought it from, which has got a returning customer now in a month's time.
Yeah, very cool.
And they'll say, come back in a week to collect your clean shoes. So they leave and then they come back a week's time to collect their shoes. So now they've got a customer returning twice in the space of whatever time you say that free clean has to be used in, when they normally wouldn't. In that time, they might pick up a pair of socks. They might pick up something else. They might pick up and
traffic.
Yeah. So, traffic is the game, and we find that, and also conversion rates the game in these retail stores. And we found it to work quite well.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So any of those, like, is there a fear that they might come into the market and, like, given that you're empowering people to actually clean their own products, do you think there's a chance that they might, I don't know, take your market share in that space?
I think I think the lessons I've learned in my 20s and dabbling in a few businesses is that there's a level of competition that's healthy. And at the moment it needs more. And even today I've messaged another, a sneaker cleaning joint in Brisbane saying,
Right.
hey, can we support your journey? We're going to send them some goodies, and we're going to say, if there's anything in here that you feel like you could use, like, we'll set you up an account and you can buy our stuff and use it to run your own sneaker laundry.
Yeah.
I think it's like a healthy ecosystem of we were here first, and we can either try and stomp out people, which is not really the way to grow a healthy industry, or we can support these people by saying, hey, you're a small business, you can't afford the minimum order quantities we have, but we can support your journey by selling you stuff at wholesale, and you can clean shoes. We'll both make money. And I think that's how, like, a healthy industry is born and healthy competition is born, because you're going to go out there and convince people to clean their shoes. I can't do that all by myself. It's big. No amount of crowdfund will give me the marketing budget to convince the whole of Australia to clean their shoes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do believe it's a question of how healthy, what level of competition is healthy, and how can we grow that industry together.
Not dissimilar to how Birchal look at capitalizing.
Yeah.
So in terms of building out an ecosystem. Beautiful percussion from Ben there. Thank you, Ben.
Microphone's so good. And I put the glass down, it just goes.
If you can try and time it with some of the maybe a joke or something like that, Ben, that'd be appreciated. So, so tell me about the future, Eugene. What are you most excited about in terms of what's coming up? You mentioned just before you came on, we hit record, about some of the kind of collabs you're doing. Tell me a bit more about that. What's actually transpiring there?
Yeah, I think this is the year for us for collabs.
Cool.
We've realized that, maybe 2022, 2021 were the years for paid advertising, and people don't want to be shoved a brand down people's, down their throats anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They go online and they want to see organic. They want to see organic reaction. They want to see organic, content. So we're going down the road of more fun, organic collaborations for just top line brand awareness.
Cool.
And also just store presence. So, we're really actively trying to we're looking at opening 4 stores this year. So it's a bit ambitious for us because we've only got 3 at the moment.
Okay.
Mostly up in Sydney, I would say. And
so 4 in Sydney?
3 in Sydney, 1 in Melbourne is what we're gunning for.
Okay.
Yeah, and we just think the market's there. It's bigger there. Small shoes there that really fit our demographic.
Okay.
Higher density, everything ticks the boxes for us.
Mainly eastern suburbs, are you thinking?
We're going to spread it out a little bit.
Okay.
Looking at one up north, one in the east. We've got one in the CBD already and one in Zetland, right? So we're probably going to just try and spread it out a little bit. Yeah, we used to have a store in Parramatta, but that was a bit rough. We got burgled like 3 times.
Oh,
And it was
tricky.
just, yeah, really tricky. Yeah, I think retail stores are going to be it for us. We just put an offer in for a real flagship location,
Mhm.
30,000 foot traffic a day sort of flagship location. And it's just going to be, we're going to try and play this retail game. It's a really funny space now because I think it's been a seesaw between e-commerce and brick and mortar.
Yeah.
So
You mean for your business or just more generally?
for everyone,
Right.
I think it's, well, for most people, I wouldn't speak on behalf of everyone, but I think what's happened is, during COVID, everyone's going, wow, e-commerce is great. I don't have to sign a lease. I don't have to deal with a landlord. I
Yeah.
don't have to deal with all these things, right? So everyone's rushed that space and it's caused this cost of acquisition to rise so quickly.
Right.
So the cost of doing online business now is so high. But then you've got a lot of like a gap now where all these shopping centers are now looking for new concepts, new retailers and are willing to eat a portion of that rent to have new exciting concepts go into these shopping centers.
Yeah.
And so you've got a gap where you now no longer pay the same amount of lease that you would if you've got a good enough concept, good enough product. You now have an opportunity to get into a brick and mortar store without paying too much.
Right.
And so now we're sort of looking for that because it's a bit of a win-win. Landlords will come to you and be like, hey, we want this concept. And you can be like, how much do you want this concept in your shopping center? Right.
Okay.
And we found that some landlords are genuine about it and be like, we're happy to be very flexible on rent.
Wow.
And so we've got a really good deal with, say, Mirvac in our East Village Settlers location in Sydney, where they had a concept, they had an idea, they had a vision for the shop being in this particular space. And we also had the same vision where we were going to put the sneaker cleaning in the window, and everyone that walks by sees it gets cleaned. And you can safely say no one's ever seen a pair of shoes get cleaned. So everyone that walked by just put their faces up against the window. Week 1 of opening, we had a call from the shopping center, and they were like, you got to stop cleaning the window. Why? That was the whole point of it. And they were like, people were piled up in the car park trying to see this, and then cars are just having to swerve customers and stuff. And I go, I guess we're doing a good job then, right? Like, I don't know, put some bollards or something,
Yeah.
And so it became an experiential thing. And
So you like dancing while you're cleaning, or what's so?
I don't know, just good looking boys, I guess. It's just like, think like a dumpling lady in the window, but maybe just, just dumpling lady is a bit overdone now. So it's just shoe cleaning in windows. And we're fine tuned what we do. So everything's presentable, everything's super neat. It is really quite interesting. It's quite satisfying watching things get cleaned, really. So
For sure.
Yeah. So I think that sort of then drew in a lot of other shopping centers, like, hey, we want the same concept. Can you do that? And we'd say the same thing. How much do you want it? Right. Like, and that's where I think the gap really is now.
So that sounds like that appetite from retailers is they're fronting a lot of the capital to get you in by the sounds thing. So it's kind of lowering the barrier to entry.
Definitely.
And then thereafter, you're just looking at customer acquisition cost, which, you're finding that's comparative to what you're finding online. Is that what you're saying?
100%. Because just by existing, the foot traffic is going to eventually convert into sales in the right spot, obviously.
Yeah.
But online, you're out there, it's a fishing expedition, right? You can jump from media buyer to media buyer to media buyer. It's really just a fishing expedition of like someone sitting on their couch or on the toilet scrolling, and you have to convince them in 3 seconds why they should buy your thing. And that went from 10 seconds to 5 seconds to probably 2 seconds this year. And you've got to try and convince that person to buy your product.
Interesting.
It's hard work.
Right. It's like a resurgence of retail, which is an exciting thing to hear, because you look around. We've just traveled around Australia recently, and just on our summer trip, and just like being really kind of saddened by empty retail everywhere. And I wonder, like, looking at it, so it's such a shame because a lot of soul is being lost. But I guess you're talking more about these kind of high-end shopping center experiences where I guess you can pick and choose. Are you finding you're positioning yourself next to the high-end stuff? So you've got the sneaker store of $1,000 sneakers. Is that where you're kind of going for, or was it a different demographic you're trying to tap into?
We've sort of covered most of it. Like, so we've got these kits that go for, $27. They'll clean 20 pairs of shoes, so it's super affordable.
Right.
And we've got the mega kits that go for like 180, one for
I saw
150,
that this morning,
and they go well too. So we've sort of got most of the bases covered. We're not cheaping out on anything. It's just like, how extensive do you want to look after your shoes? And we're finding that, people will shop comparative to what they have. If you've got $10,000 worth of sneakers, I'm going to just get a $27 kit.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, mate, this is nothing comparative. They'll
Yeah.
just buy the 150, the 180, and they'll clean, 40, 50 pairs of shoes to those kits, no problems. So versus like if you've just got some Asics, they're just runners or they're maybe golf shoes or something like that. Just pick up a kit for $27 or $30 and you just clean those over and over and over again. And we had an issue actually. We had an issue with returning customer rates, and we're part of a survey we ran was like, why aren't you returning? And the most common answer was, I've still got half a bottle of this stuff. It just lasts forever. So we were just like, we've sort of done ourselves a disservice because we're focused so much on the quality that it just lasts such a long time.
Which is a tricky conundrum, right?
It is.
A lot of businesses face that, and you've seen, I just think of kind of IT actually. The computer systems have just gone down with like creating a computer which lasts 3 years and then it's just a bit crap, but can't upgrade it or something like that.
Yeah. So if you have a product that's too good and no one goes back to buy it, buy a new thing, then you kind of stuff.
Which is tricky again if you're coming back to if you've got vested interest, which really isn't mission aligned. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So then, if I can imagine if I had a VC on board, they might go, water that down 50%, make the holes bigger, like, make them run out of this quicker. At which point people aren't stupid. They'll go, this kind of sucks.
It's off mission.
And we have to use that stuff ourselves in the stores. So then my team is going to be like, yo, this sucks. like bring back the old stuff. Yeah. So I guess we're like a living embodiment of the stuff that we use because we're customer facing. If you drop your shoes on, we have to use that stuff ourselves and we have to produce the results ourselves, so it's all sort of one ecosystem. We have to use the best to get the best results.
Tell me about the international kind of picture. Obviously it sounds like this would be right. Products can be shipped easily. How do you assess that marketplace?
I think we live in an era of like data. It's so data driven now that you can actually safely enter into spaces. Literally as we speak, we're trying to run just a separate US site where we only sell the 2 big kits to the US. I think based on the numbers, it shows that we can run that. And so we can acquire customers through, Google media buying cheaply enough that we've got the margins to then ship the products to the US.
Right.
Australia's just a tricky place because Australia is so far away from everything that, to send one of our kits costs actually like $80.
Because they're big, right? Like they're talking a large pizza box kind of.
The mega one's the size of a newborn, easily, maybe 2 newborns. I don't know. It's big. Yeah. It's like they're big. And the cost to send that to the US
That's such a funny dimension to share.
No, because I was in China and I was like, hey, I want to fit all these products into a box. And this Chinese dude shows up in my hotel. And I swear to God, he was in an elevator. I've got a photo somewhere. He was in an elevator carrying this box. I couldn't see him. And I was like, dude, like it's just so big. And so we worked on making it smaller because I was like, warehousing costs, shipping costs, whatever. And so we started there. And it looked like he was just hugging this infant child. And I was like, Jesus, we had to just strip it back. So, and it's still overly large, and I think it's very impressive for what it is, and that's what makes it such a giftable product. Obviously, I'm not trying to make it excessively large. It's as large as it needs to be, but it's very large.
Interesting. And so, and then you're finding the market, obviously the US, huge, like shoes galore, right?
Even UK, massive, right?
Right.
Australia struggles, and I think the total addressable market for Australia is definitely capped out.
Okay.
And it will take time to grow. And I think the money is wasted you can definitely see how much does it cost to convert a customer in Australia, and not to mention what you can charge within Australia versus in America for a more premium product.
Right.
And you can,
as in the top, there's a lot. People spend a lot more.
A lot more.
Okay.
Because they're spending a lot more on sneakers. Again, it's always like, because we're just like a supporting industry. Like we're always going to be a portion of what the sneaker sales are. If the sneaker sales in America is billions, will be a slight percentage of that. In Australia, it's a fraction of that size. Will be likewise a fraction of that size.
Okay.
So I always see that, wow, our market there is always going to be bigger. The shoe care industry, sneaker care industry in there has been more developed, and we've got a really strong offering. So we now got a US landing page that's now going to just direct sales, and we're going to test the waters there. And first, we're going to start shipping stuff for $80 a pop. And if that works, we're then going to look into maybe a 3PL in US to then send stuff from there.
Because your shelf life is how long for these products?
At least 2 years.
Oh, fantastic.
2 years is conservative. Like, I've got kits in my house that 4 or 5 years and they still go strong.
Okay, cool. So you kind of, it's just going to be the cost of warehousing, which becomes the major limiting factor potentially.
Yeah, oh, it's the shipping. It's the shipping cost to the
Shipping.
US, which is such a pain.
Okay.
Our products are like to ship anywhere because they're a low cost product.
Yep.
I wouldn't say they're very expensive for $20 something. The shipping to the US normally costs more than that.
Yeah, right.
So we can't ship the $30 kits because it costs more than $30 to send to the US. So we're actually going the Amazon route now. So we're on Amazon in the US and we're on Amazon in Canada.
Right.
And we're going to be in Amazon in the UK as well.
Cool.
Hopefully in the next 2 months or so.
And just for those who are unfamiliar, what does that mean in terms of like, how does that help you in terms of the shipping space?
So we do FBA. So Amazon will hold our stock for us. They'll charge us a fee for holding our stock and fulfilling that. It's generally quite reasonable if your product's not excessively large.
Yep.
And you can definitely price that into the price as well. So if I sell it for $27 on my website, I'll sell it for $33 on Amazon.
Yep.
That's priced in with the fulfillment costs, shipping costs, and everything involved.
Yep.
And it means that you don't have to go through almost the process of starting a business in a new country.
Cool.
Like getting a warehouse staff and whatnot. It's quite simple to get started. You can get, 10 boxes of stuff sent from your factory to Amazon in that particular location. And Amazon's pretty helpful. They help you set up everything on Amazon, start selling.
So long-term vision for you, where do you see Sneaker Laundry going?
Global. I think we've built a lot of stuff out with the service that my funniest story is, we opened a store in Lebanon during the last lockdown of COVID.
Right.
Got granted a thing to fly out to Beirut to open a store. And that was actually it's actually a really funny story because I flew with 80 kilos of luggage and that was enough to start a Sneaker Laundry for 3 months.
Wow.
And it was a Lebanese business partner of ours that I met over Instagram and it seemed like a really solid dude, a really good track record with businesses, and he owned a sneaker store. And he was like, come over, we'll start this. And I was like, yeah, I want to travel. I haven't traveled in 2 years, so let's do it.
Let's do it.
I was like, I need a lot of luggage. He goes, it's all good. I've got an auntie, she lives in Melbourne, bring her over with you and you've got 80 kilos of luggage. I'm like, done. So I picked up some Lebanese, 70-year-old from the west side, just yeeted her. And she's, what's that?
All good businesses are launched. Yep.
Literally. And we land in Beirut like 30 hours later.
Wow. First time you're meeting this guy?
First time. We were done Zoom a couple of times and whatnot.
Wow.
You've got worried parents at home going, Hezbollah this, Hezbollah that. And I told her, it's all right. I'm the only Asian in Beirut. I think they'll realize if I go missing. In a short, 2-3 week span, we had a Sneaker Laundry up and running.
Cool.
Trained a whole bunch of staff and it's self-sufficient. And we realized that we've got the systems in place now to train, to scale, and to build, stores out wherever and whenever we want.
Cool.
Whether it be like an online training program or like the ongoing sort of management tools that we built for ourselves to track how to start for cleaning shoes. It's really come a long way. Like we used to have these problems where people would drop shoes off and they haven't looked at their shoes in so long. So they don't know the scratches there or anything. And they think we've caused it, but we could never. Like it's impossible. The stuff that we use is impossible, but you try explaining that to a customer, it won't work, right? So we now have a 360-degree table. You put it on, does a spin, the cameras flicker up into a cloud. Got any issues, we'll just flick the footage over to you. Down the track, obviously, we want to integrate that to an order, just attach the videos and everything. But for now, it's up on the cloud.
Cool.
If you want it, we'll flick the video across you. You get to see it before, and then you get to see how the shoes turn out after.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we've built out all these systems in place that over the last 6 years that just, when you asked the question before, you worried about people coming in. Not really. I think we've put in so much work into the brand and into how we run the shops that anyone coming in is just playing catch up.
Cool.
Anyone trying to come up with a sneaker care range is definitely playing catch up. So,
and are you manufacturing domestically here in Australia?
We used to do, because when we first started, we had these ideas we'd get a pair of shoes and it's covered in blood and we're using what we have. We started our own product range. It's only 4 products big and go, man, can't get this out.
Yeah.
Then we got to refund the customer. Then someone else comes in with something else like wine stain. Can't get this out either.
Right.
We're going to refund the customer again. So then we need, for example, a stain remover, but we can't just use, nappy sand or whatever. And we found nappy sand ruin shoes. Till today, people go, I've just doused my shoe in nappy sand, help me.
Yeah.
So we then have to come up with a stain remover that's safe to use on shoes, trial and error, a whole bunch of things. And we used to make and bottle that locally. Until we had the MOQs, we then flicked that across to China and got it made there because it was too expensive to
What's
make
an
it.
MOQ?
Oh, sorry, minimum order quantity.
Got it.
So we until we sort of had that minimum order quantity, and then we could flick it across to China to get it made because it was too expensive to get it made here.
Okay.
And what we found was initially we took a lot of pride in having as much stuff made locally as we could, but I've realized that people don't really, especially our audience, don't really mind or care as much.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you could get it made overseas and have an affordable price tag, they'd much prefer that. Second, it goes outside that range, but even if you said this one's Australian made, it just doesn't buy it.
Yeah.
And
Aussies definitely vote with their wallet, don't they?
they I think eventually do, which is what makes sustainable businesses so hard.
Yeah.
Because
For sure.
sustainability comes at a fat price tag, you know. Like we went down the rabbit hole of sustainability. We started trying to make bottles with recycled plastics and everything like that, and we realized doubled the cost of our product.
Right.
And when we tried to pass that on to customers, they fought back instantly.
Yeah.
So then we'd run through a batch of products where we're like, shit, we've got to eat this one, right? And we just lowered the prices back down. We've got to eat that. But the next one, we were just like, we've learned our lesson. We can't make that shift so quickly.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And that's it's a funny lesson we learned.
Well, I think, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is.
But I think consumers, don't appreciate what it really takes. And often,
They do if it's the same price.
Oh, for sure. But that's like anything, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I think we're quite blessed. Again, if we bring it back to the raise, I was quite happy with, I definitely count my blessings that I can afford to make these mistakes. Whereas I wouldn't have been able to afford to make these mistakes.
Yeah.
Not that I'm proud of these mistakes, but I'm happy that
That's what it takes.
that I can live to fight another day with some of these mistakes.
Yeah.
But
Well,
before it's just,
learnings, right?
I think
Try things.
you go to
get
uni,
market
you pay
feedback.
10 grand a year, but then you come out and you're an entrepreneur and you just,
That's it.
and it costs you a little bit more.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, Eugene, thank you so much for taking the time out from your day to talk with us. It's I think your humility, your willingness to engage with the crowd, because the crowd does present different opportunities and there's drawbacks as well. And your reality around what it's actually like to raise capital from the crowd is an interesting one. And very real. So thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome, dude. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Yeah.